Hi, this is Mr. Gallagher, and this is the fourth and final video from section 2.4 in Algebra 2, Writing Linear Equations. For example 7, we'll be dealing with a word problem that has to do with sales. As a part-time salesperson, Julie O'Brien is paid a daily salary plus commission. When her sales are $100, she makes $58. When her sales are $300, she makes $78. Well, before we start here, we should talk about the word salary and what that means, and then also the word commission and what that means. When a person is paid a salary, that's thought of as a guaranteed amount of money. So Julie's going to get paid a certain amount just for coming into work each day. And regardless of what happens, whether she has a lot of sales or not, her base salary will stay the same. With commission, it's a little different. Commission could go up or down based on how her performance is. So for instance, if she makes a whole lot of sales, she'll get paid a lot of commission. And if she doesn't make very many sales, her commission will be very low. So the salary part is kind of like her guaranteed money, and the commission part is based on her performance. So for part A, we're going to write a linear equation to model this situation. Now at first that might seem difficult because we don't have a line on a graph, and we don't really even have an equation or a slope or anything like that to go from. All we have is a few numbers that relate to dollars or money. So if we take a look at the second and third sentences here, when her sales are $100, she makes $58. When her sales are $300, she makes $78. Now if we take those numbers and think of them in a slightly different way, we can actually kind of make them into ordered pairs. First, the 158 would be from the second sentence, and then 378 would be from the last sentence. And you know how ordered pairs are kind of made up of an x part and a y part. What we really have then are two sets of x's and y's, which are kind of relating Julie's sales and pay to the coordinate plane. So since we have variables here and we're dealing with a real life problem, it's important to establish what the variables are. So we're going to let x equal Julie's sales for the day, and we're going to let y equal Julie's pay for the day. Well, if you remember anything about linear equations from our previous examples, whenever you're dealing with a linear equation, at some point you're probably going to have to either find slope or hope that you're given slope, because that's a major part of each of the different equations that we've talked about. Well, we obviously aren't given any kind of a slope for this example, but since we do have two ordered pairs to work with, if you remember the slope formula, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And see, we do have two pairs of x's and y's. We could plug in values for each of them into our slope formula, where the y values go up top, the 78 and the 58, and our x values are on the bottom, 300 and 100. And then we can do the subtraction. End up getting 20 over 200. We can reduce the fraction then. That reduces to 1/10. And most of the time we are going to leave slope in fraction form, but this is one rare occasion. Since we're talking about money, it might be easier for us to change 1/10 into 0.10. And that way you can kind of think of it as like dollars, like $0.10 or 10 cents. So then once we know the slope, that's a major part of our equation. So here we have point slope form. We know that our slope is m, and the second part of point slope is using a point that we know will touch the line. Well, we have 2 points right here that we know are on our line. We have 100, 58, and then 300, 78. And we could use either one of them I'll use the first one since the values are a little smaller. It might be a little nicer to work with. We plug the 100 in for x1 and the 58 in for y1, and then of course our slope, which I found just a short while ago, is 0.10. And now if we solve this equation for y, we'll have slope-intercept form of our equation that models this situation. So we have to distribute 0.10 to x and to the 100. And when you do that, you're going to have y minus 58 equals 0.10x minus 10. Once again, we've multiplied the 0.10 by both of the things in the parentheses. And then we'll have to add 58 to each side, and that'll get y all by itself on the left side. So then we'll have negative 10. We'll add 58 to it. And then we have y equals 0.10x plus 48. And that's our final answer. That gives us slope-intercept form of the linear equation, which models the situation of Julie O'Brien's pay based on her daily salary and commission. So if that's our equation, then how do we interpret it? In other words, what are Julie's daily salary and commission rate? How much is she getting paid each day? Well, as we said before, salary is the guaranteed portion of her pay. So when we look at the equation that we found, the plus 48 isn't going to change no matter what. There's always going to be $48 that are added regardless of what happens. So she'll be guaranteed to get $48 per day. And the second part, her commission rate, well, that's going to be the part that could change. If her sales are very high, then she's going to get a lot more money. And if her sales are very low, or if she doesn't do any sales for that day, then she'll either make very little or even nothing. And that's going to be the 0.10, or once again, you could think of it as 10 cents. So for every dollar of sales that she has, she's going to make an extra 10 cents for herself. All right, so then to put this equation to work here, we'll find out how much Julie would make in a day if her sales were $600. Well, at first you might look up top and say, oh, okay, so her sales were $300 and then she made $78. Should we just double that because we doubled the sales? Should we then double her pay? But that's not really how it's going to work, because if you remember, we found this equation, and we're going to actually use this equation where we have the x here. We're going to have to plug in a 600. So y equals 0.10 times 600 plus 48. So 0.10 times 600 is going to give me 60, and then 60 plus 48 is 108. So if she had $600 in sales for one day, she would make $108.